Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's talk some boxing. Now, Joyce versus Carlos Takam. And once again, Joyce has, I'm not going to say walked through him, but he kind of has, because that's what he does. Now, of course, that means he's stopped him emphatically. It was a stoppage that was brought on by that punch that landed early in the 6th, and it ended up with the ref jumping in. But what I mean is Joyce seems to walk through everyone, or at least try, because he just comes forwards. At the start, he was very upright, and he was standing up, taking quite a bit of punishment from Carlos Takam, but he was happy to take it. Then, at one point, he decided to go side on, maybe let one or two shots from Takam go past him, so he was being a little bit more smart using that capoeira style, and certain things like that we do see from Joyce in fights, but we see them in patches. He done it in the Ustinov fight as well, where he was bobbing and weaving from side to side, using that ability that he has, but then again he switches. So Joyce is the kind of fighter who does go through the gears and switches things up in fights. Now I think it's clear to see that against Takam, we knew what his intentions were. He told us what they were before he went in. He wanted to go in, he wanted to get a stoppage, he wanted to make a statement, and he wanted to get to him before AJ did, so he wanted to stop him before the 10th round. And it was kind of a similar manner in which the fight was stopped. In Takam's eyes, it was premature because he protested against Joyce, he protested against Anthony Joshua after the stoppage. I know that Carlos Takam is a different fighter now to what he was 3 or 4 years ago when AJ faced him, but nevertheless, Joyce went in there to make a statement. He went in there to get the stoppage. You could see that by the way he was fighting in the first couple of rounds. And then, as I said, he did have that moment where he decided, okay, I need to be a little bit more smart. He even had that moment when he was going after Carlos Takam to try and stop him. He was throwing caution to the wind and decided, I want to get this guy out of here. I want to make that statement. But then halfway through, he realized what is on the line if he makes a mistake. So got back behind that jab, used the space as well, and the distance so that he had that space to work, and then he could go after Carlos Takam, reassess his attack. And that is a good quality to have. He doesn't want to just go gung-ho and look for the stoppage, because then he risks getting countered, and Takam was the one who was in trouble, so why risk it? He can get back behind that jab, still apply the pressure, step in behind it, and then he has space to work. That was one thing I noticed from Joyce, that he did do extremely well. He was patient when he got Takam hurt, but still, he was ruthless. Now, one thing that he was doing was he was standing tall, which obviously means he can use his physical advantages, use his jab, and Takam has to work harder to get to him. But also what he was doing was he was stepping heavy with that jab, meaning if it fell short, if Takam was able to bob and weave past it, then he had a clear line of fire at Joyce, and that right hand did slip over the top a few times and did catch Joyce, so he was taking punishment, but I would put that down to Joyce maybe being a bit too keen to get involved with the action early on, because as we said earlier, he wanted to make a statement and he wanted to get Carlos Takam out of there. You could see that difference when he decided to start going side on, let a few shots slip and slide here and there, and in the 4th round I believe it was, he started working down to the body, so he invested a lot in doing that. That shown what Joyce was doing. He was adjusting as this contest went on. No, he cannot blow him away in round 1 or 2, so what can he do? Okay, he can start working down to the body, start making him miss a little bit more and fall short, so that Carlos Takam is putting a lot into his work, but he's not getting all that much for it, aside from a few body shots sent back his way. That really zapped the energy of Carlos Takam and made it difficult for him to continue applying pressure, especially when Joyce was the one trying to press him. So, in turn, Carlos Takam was being broken down by Joyce, as opposed to Joyce standing there and having a trading match with him. Because at no point was Carlos Takam overawed, at no point did he feel intimidated by Joyce. He wasn't backing off. Yes, he took a few steps back and to the side, but at no point did he decide, okay, I can't take this kind of pressure, so I'm going to go on the back foot. I'm going to hide from this guy. He didn't do that. He went looking for Joyce, and he did want to fight fire with fire. In that moment, Joyce did have a decision to make, and Carlos Takam was landing his punches. He was getting those shots over the top. He was staying close to Joyce, not allowing him to dictate the range and the distance, or trying not to allow Joyce to get control of those fundamentals so that he could land punches, because if he steps off of Joyce, then Joyce can just pick him off. So he decided to be brave and stay close to him, as close as he could. Then he can start landing some smart counters. Then he can start shooting that right hand over the top, especially when Joyce was stepping heavy with that lead jab and then falling short. That was when Carlos Takam slipped to the side and threw that right hand. A few times it worked, but the problem is Joyce has a granite chin, and it's very hard for any fighter to put a dent in him. Now, let's talk about that stoppage. Was it too soon? Was it maybe at the right time? Could Carlos Takam have gotten back into the fight after that? I think that those are very interesting questions. Could Carlos Takam have gotten back into the fight? And was he okay to continue? The thing is, it happened early in the round. Literally, Joyce stepped to him and landed that combination, which kind of led up to the stoppage. So, given that, it is a difficult decision for the ref to make. Carlos Takam has to try and slip and slide and survive and try and make it back to the stall. The problem is, as I said, it happened early on in the round, and also the problem is Carlos Takam wasn't really throwing all that much back, and that is also what can lead to a stoppage. You have to show the ref something, and I know that Carlos Takam seemed okay. He protested the stoppage straight away, which kind of does tell you that he was in a good mindset. He wasn't really hurt all that much, because someone who gets stopped and they don't protest, they're still a little bit shell-shocked as to what is going on. Takam wasn't. He knew what was going on, so he was still all there. It was just he wasn't throwing that much back, and he was continuously getting caught by Joyce. That is one thing that is good about Joyce. He might be slow, yes, but if you look at the punches that were landing leading up to the fight being stopped, a lot of them were landing on Carlos Takam. Some of them did miss, some of them were caught by Takam, but Joyce measures shots so well, and he is so accurate, especially when he gets an opponent hurt, and he made Takam pay for maybe having a lapse in concentration early on in the round. He jumped on him quickly, landed that combination, and he didn't stop throwing until the fight was stopped. So given it happened early, given Joyce was landing continuously, and given that Carlos Takam did not return fire, the ref is within his rights to stop the contest, because he can't see anything coming back from Takam. He looks visibly worn and visibly hurt, and he still has a long time to go in the round to try and regroup, recover, and what does he have to take to get back to the stall to get that minute rest? Those questions will be going through the head of the referee, so he has to make a decision, and that's what he done. Carlos Takam is a tough fighter. He's always going to try and continue and keep going, unless he is put down like he was against Povetkin and Derek Chisora. It's a little bit different in that situation, but against someone like Joyce, who doesn't have that one big punch to finish it in one shot, he's going to continue to take punishment, and he's going to continue to keep trying to come forwards and make it work. It is a little bit more dangerous in that situation to let him continue. So the ref would have been thinking about certain things like that when making his decision. Joyce, I think he fought very well. I thought he was a little bit careless to begin with, maybe got hit too many times, but that's Joyce's style. He is someone who has a granite chin, and he puts that to good use. And he is a technically good boxer, but he does make mistakes. He does get hit, and he doesn't look all that pretty with his boxing ability, his boxing stance, but it ain't pretty, but it's effective. He continues to win, and he continues to take tough challenges. They didn't have to go with Carlos Takam, but they decided to go with him because they thought it would be a good fight, a tough fight for Joyce, and one where he can get some good rounds in against a top quality operator. Next, who does Joyce go with? I mean, Pulev could be an interesting avenue to explore. I know he's older, coming off a defeat to Anthony Joshua, but it is important that Joyce has some good learning fights, because he is still quite young in the pro game. I mean, that was his 13th fight. So there is plenty more experience to be had in the heavyweight division for Joe Joyce, and I would like to see him fight a taller opponent next. He fought a tricky, awkward, small fighter in Takam. I would like to see him fight a taller guy who can punch quite hard, and that does kind of prepare him for Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, the bigger guys in the heavyweight division, who are champions and the ones he is looking to get in the ring with. So maybe a taller fighter, good jab, good movement. Pulev would be a good one for him next, I believe. But I guess we will just have to wait and see. He is lining up a world title opportunity now, after being instated as the next mandatory in the WBO, after Alexander Usyk. Not called yet, but eventually he will get his shot at Anthony Joshua. Anyway guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.